My sister forgot our dad's meds for 5 days, and I was blamed when he had a stroke. My younger sister, Natalie, always insisted she wasn't good with old people. So when dad's health started slipping 2 years ago, I became the one who sorted his medications every Sunday night, drove him to appointments, and made sure he ate real meals instead of crackers and peanut butter. Natalie sent birthday cards from her apartment across town and texted him photos of her dog. When my job sent me on mandatory training overseas for 10 days, I asked her to stay at dad's house. Not to become a full-time caregiver, just to hand him his pill organizer twice a day, heat up the labeled meals I'd prepped and frozen, and make sure he didn't fall getting out of the shower. I landed at the airport on a Tuesday morning and drove straight to the house. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and stopped. Dad sat in his recliner in the living room, thinner than I'd ever seen him, staring at the television with the sound off. His shirt hung loose on his shoulders. He turned his head slowly when I said his name, and his eyes took a second to focus. "You're back," he said, his voice sounded hollow. I dropped my bag and crossed the room. "Dad, are you okay? Have you been eating?" He blinked at me. "I think so." Natalie appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, wearing pajama pants and one of Dad's old sweatshirts. "You're early. I thought your flight wasn't until tonight." "It landed this morning," I said. I looked back at Dad. "When did you eat last?" He frowned. "Breakfast, I think." "It's almost noon," I said. Natalie shrugged. "He didn't say he was hungry." I walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. 4 labeled containers sat untouched on the top shelf, the dates showing they should have been eaten days ago. One had green fuzz creeping along the edge of the lid. The sink overflowed with dirty dishes, bowls crusted with cereal, mugs stained brown. I opened the cupboard where I kept Dad's pill organizer and pulled it out. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday were still full. 5 days of medication sitting in their little compartments. I turned around. Natalie leaned against the counter, scrolling. "He didn't take his meds," I said. She glanced up. "He never told me when to give them to him. I left you a schedule. It's taped to the fridge. He's an adult. I'm not going to follow him around forcing pills down his throat." I stared at her. "You were supposed to hand him the organizer twice a day. That's it. Morning and night. He didn't ask for it. He has early stage dementia, Natalie. He forgets things. That's why I wrote it down. That's why I asked you to stay here." She straightened, her face flushing. "I did stay here. I've been here every single night. Do you know how hard it is sleeping in this house? I barely got any rest." "He lost weight," I said. "Look at him. He looks like he hasn't eaten in a week." I offered him food. He said he wasn't hungry. "You heat it up and put it in front of him. You don't just offer and walk away." Her jaw tightened. "You're being completely unfair right now. I did my best. I don't know what else you wanted from me. I wanted you to follow the plan I left. The plan was ridiculous. You treat him like a child. He needed help for 10 days. That's all I asked." She shoved her phone into her pocket. "You know what? This is exactly why I don't do this stuff. You're so controlling. Nothing I do is ever good enough for you." I turned back to the pill organizer. The little plastic compartments lined up in a perfect, untouched row. My hand shook when I picked it up. I walked back to the living room and knelt next to Dad's chair. "Dad, did you take your medicine this week?" He looked at me, confused. "I don't remember." I glanced over my shoulder. Natalie stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, staring at her feet. I spent the rest of that day getting Dad back on track. I crushed his missed medications and mixed them into applesauce, called his doctor to explain the gap, and made him a proper lunch while he sat at the kitchen table watching me with tired eyes. He ate half a sandwich and drank some juice. When I asked if he felt okay, he nodded, but his hand trembled when he set the glass down. Natalie stayed in her old bedroom upstairs with the door closed. I cleaned the kitchen, scrubbed the dishes, threw out the moldy containers, and restocked the fridge with fresh groceries I picked up that afternoon. I wrote out a new medication schedule on a whiteboard and hung it next to the pill box. I set alarms on my phone for every dose. That night, I slept on the couch so I could hear if Dad got up. He shuffled to the bathroom twice, and both times I listened for the sound of him making it back to bed safely. The next morning, Natalie came downstairs wearing her coat and carrying her overnight bag. "I'm going home," she said. I looked up from the stove where I was scrambling eggs for Dad. "Okay, I can't stay here with you acting like I committed a crime." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." She dropped the bag by the door. "You've been stomping around here like I tried to kill him." I turned off the burner. "You didn't give him his medication for 5 days." "I forgot. People forget things." "He can't afford to forget things. That's why I left instructions." She crossed her arms. "You left a million instructions. A binder full of notes and schedules and meal plans like I was some kind of hired nurse. It was overwhelming. It was 10 days. 10 days of you micromanaging from another country." I stared at her. "I sent you 2 text messages the entire time. One to ask how he was doing, and one to remind you about his cardiology appointment." "Exactly. You were checking up on me." "I was checking on him." She grabbed her bag. "I don't need this. I tried to help, and you're treating me like I'm the bad guy." "Natalie, wait." She opened the door. "Call me when you're ready to apologize." She left. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood there holding the spatula, staring at the space where she'd been standing. Dad appeared in the doorway, shuffling in his slippers. "Where's Natalie going?" "Home," I said. He frowned. "Did you two fight?" "A little." "You shouldn't fight with your sister." I turned back to the eggs and slid them onto a plate. "I know, Dad." 2 days later, my Aunt Diane called. She lived 3 hours north and visited maybe twice a year, always with a casserole and a lot of opinions about how we should be handling things. "I talked to Natalie," she said. Her voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to tell you you're wrong but want to sound gentle about it. "Okay," I said. "She's really upset. She said you yelled at her the second you got home." I was sitting at Dad's kitchen table with his insurance paperwork spread out in front of me. I put down my pen. I didn't yell. I asked her why Dad hadn't taken his medication. She said she did her best. "Caregiving is hard, honey. You can't expect her to be perfect." I didn't expect perfect. I expected her to follow a basic schedule. She's not used to this kind of thing. You know how she is with older people. She gets anxious. She agreed to stay here. I prepped everything. All she had to do was heat up meals and hand him a pill organizer twice a day. Diane sighed. "I think you're being a little hard on her. She stepped up when you needed her. That's not easy for someone like Natalie." Someone like Natalie. You know what I mean? She's sensitive. She doesn't handle pressure well. Dad lost weight, Diane. He looked terrible when I got home. Older people lose weight sometimes. That's not necessarily her fault. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. His medication organizer was still full. For 5 days. Maybe he told her he already took it. You know how confused he gets. That's why I wrote everything down. I'm just saying you need to give her some grace. She was trying to help. She feels awful that you're so angry with her. I looked across the table at Dad, who was working on a crossword puzzle, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. He looked better than he had 3 days ago, but his shirt still hung loose and his cheeks were hollow. I'm not angry, I said. I'm scared. Of what? Of what could have happened if I'd stayed away longer. Diane was quiet for a second. Then she said, you can't control everything. Sometimes you have to trust other people to do their best, even if it's not exactly how you would do it. Their best almost put him in the hospital. That's dramatic. Is it? Yes, she said. Her voice sharpened a little. You're acting like she neglected him on purpose. She's your sister. She loves your father. She made some mistakes because she was overwhelmed. You need to apologize and move on. I closed my eyes. I'm not apologizing. Then you're going to lose her. She left, Diane. I didn't kick her out. Because you made her feel unwelcome. I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped. There was no point. Diane had already decided how this story went, and Natalie had given her the version where I was the villain. I have to go, I said. Think about what I said. I hung up. Dad looked up from his crossword. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Everything's fine. He nodded and went back to his puzzle. I stared at the insurance forms and wondered how long I could keep doing this alone. I went back to work the following Monday. My manager had been understanding about the overseas training, but I'd already burned most of my flexibility, and I couldn't afford to take more time off. I rearranged my schedule so I could check on Dad during lunch and leave early 3 days a week for his appointments. Natalie didn't call. She didn't text. Her silence felt deliberate, like she was waiting for me to cave first. On Wednesday, my cousin Rachel sent me a message. Hey, just wanted to check in. Nat told me things got pretty rough while you were gone. Hope you're doing okay. I stared at the screen. What did she say? Just that she tried really hard to take care of Uncle Mike and you weren't happy with how she did things. She sounded pretty hurt. I typed back. Did she mention that Dad didn't take his medication for 5 days? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. She said he told her he already took it. She didn't want to force him. I put my phone down and didn't respond. The next day, my uncle called. Then my mom's old college friend who somehow still kept tabs on our family. Then Diane again. This time with a longer speech about how siblings need to support each other and how holding grudges only hurts everyone, especially Dad. I stopped answering calls from numbers I recognized. On Saturday morning, I was at Dad's house making breakfast when he shuffled into the kitchen and leaned against the counter, breathing hard. Dad? He waved me off. I'm fine, just got dizzy. I pulled out a chair. Sit down. He lowered himself slowly, gripping the table edge. His face looked pale, almost gray. When did you eat last? I asked. I had some crackers earlier. What time? He frowned. I don't know, maybe an hour ago. I checked his pill organizer. He'd taken his morning dose, including the blood pressure medication that I always made sure he took with food. Did you eat before you took your pills? He looked confused. I don't think so. I knelt next to his chair. Dad, you have to eat something before the blood pressure meds. Remember? We talked about this. I forgot. I know. I stood up and grabbed the orange juice from the fridge, poured him a glass, and handed it to him with a granola bar. Eat this. Slowly. He took a small bite. His hands were shaking. I sat down across from him and watched him chew. My chest felt tight. Did this happen while I was gone? I asked. Did you ever feel dizzy like this? He thought about it. Maybe once. When? I don't remember exactly. I was getting out of the shower and I had to sit down on the edge of the tub for a minute. My stomach dropped. Did Natalie know? She was downstairs. I didn't tell her. Why not? He shrugged. I didn't want to bother her. I pressed my palms flat against the table. Dad, if that happens again, you need to tell someone. You could fall. You could hit your head. I was fine. This time. He finished the granola bar and drank half the juice. The color started coming back to his face. I waited until his hands steadied before I let myself breathe normally again. That afternoon, I called 3 home care agencies and got quotes for part-time help. The prices made my stomach hurt, but I wrote them all down anyway. I researched senior day programs in the area and found one that offered transportation, meals, and social activities 5 days a week. I bookmarked the website and added it to the folder on my laptop labeled Dad's Care. On Sunday, I drove to Natalie's apartment. She lived in a complex near the mall, 3rd floor, with a balcony she never used and a parking spot that always had someone else's car in it. I knocked on her door and waited. She opened it halfway, still in her pajamas even though it was almost noon. What do you want? We need to talk. I don't think we do. Dad almost fainted in the shower while I was gone. Did you know that? Her face went blank. No, he said it happened once. He didn't tell you because he didn't want to bother you. Well, I can't read his mind. You were supposed to be checking on him. She crossed her arms. I was there. I checked on him all the time. If he didn't tell me something was wrong, how was I supposed to know? That's the whole point, Natalie. He doesn't always know when something's wrong. That's why he needed someone paying attention. I was paying attention. He wasn't eating before his blood pressure medication. That's why he got dizzy. If he'd fallen and cracked his head open, what would you have done? Her jaw tightened. That didn't happen. It almost did. But it didn't. You're catastrophizing. I stared at her. I'm trying to keep him safe by blaming me for every little thing that goes wrong. This isn't little. She stepped back and started to close the door. I'm done with this conversation. I put my hand on the door. Wait, I'm looking into getting him some help. A part-time aide or maybe a day program. Something so he's not alone so much. Her eyes narrowed. You're putting him in a home. That's not what I said. That's what it sounds like. It's a day program. He'd come back every night. Or we get someone to check on him a few hours a day. That's it. Because you can't handle taking care of him. Because I can't be there every second and neither can you. You just don't want to deal with the reality of him getting older. You want someone else to do it so you don't have to feel guilty. I dropped my hand from the door. That's not fair. Isn't it? You're already planning to ship him off because it's too hard. I'm trying to make sure he doesn't fall and die alone in his house. By dumping him somewhere with strangers. It's not dumping him, it's getting him support. She shook her head. You do whatever you want. You always do. But don't pretend this is about him. This is about you not wanting the responsibility. She closed the door. I heard the lock click. I stood in the hallway for a full minute before I walked back to my car. That night, the family group chat exploded. Someone had added me back in after I'd muted it weeks ago, and I opened it to find 23 new messages. Diane had written, I think we need to talk about what's best for Mike. I'm hearing a lot of different things, and I'm worried about him. Rachel replied, what's going on? Diane wrote, there's been some tension between the girls. I just want to make sure Mike is being taken care of and that no one is making decisions without talking to the rest of us. Natalie's message appeared next. I stayed with Dad for 10 days while she was gone, and she came home and acted like I tried to hurt him. Now she wants to put him in a facility because taking care of him is too much work. My phone buzzed in my hand. Another message from Rachel. Is that true? Then my uncle. Mike doesn't need a facility. He needs family. Then someone I didn't even recognize. Facilities are where people go to die. I scrolled through the messages, my hands going numb. Natalie had rewritten the whole story. She was the one who tried to help. I was the one who couldn't handle it. I was the one giving up. I started typing a response, then deleted it. I tried again. Deleted it. There was no point. They'd already decided. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark living room staring at nothing, wondering how trying to protect my father had turned into proof that I didn't care. The gathering was my uncle's idea. He called me on Tuesday and said the family needed to sit down together, that all this tension wasn't good for Dad, that we should talk things through like adults. I told him I didn't think it was necessary. He said Dad deserved to have his whole family around him, not just me hovering and making everyone else feel unwelcome. I agreed because I didn't know how to say no without sounding like I was the problem. Sunday afternoon, I drove Dad to my uncle's house. He lived in a ranch-style place with a big backyard and a deck where he liked to grill. The driveway was already full when we pulled up. Diane's car, Natalie's car, Rachel's SUV, 2 others I didn't recognize. Dad looked at the house and frowned. Is this a party? Just family, I said. I'm tired. I know, we won't stay long. I helped him out of the car and walked him slowly up the driveway. He gripped my arm the whole way. Inside, everyone was already gathered in the living room. Natalie sat on the couch between Diane and Rachel holding a mug of tea. She looked up when we walked in and her face went carefully neutral. There he is, my uncle said, standing up from his chair. He crossed the room and clapped Dad on the shoulder. How are you feeling, Mike? Fine, Dad said quietly. Good, come sit down. We saved you the recliner. I guided Dad to the chair and waited while he lowered himself into it. He looked small, surrounded by all these people. I stayed standing next to him. Diane smiled at me from the couch. Thanks for coming. I know this has been a hard few weeks for everyone. Sure, I said. My uncle sat back down. So, we wanted to get everyone together because there's been some confusion about what's going on with Mike's care. We're family. We should be on the same page. I glanced at Natalie. She was staring into her mug. Rachel spoke up. Nat told us things got pretty intense after you came back from your trip. We just want to understand what happened. I looked at Dad. He was staring at his hands in his lap. What did she tell you? I asked. Natalie set her mug down on the coffee table. I told them the truth, that I stayed with Dad for 10 days and tried my best, and when you got home, you treated me like I'd done something terrible. You didn't give him his medication for 5 days. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. It wasn't just the medication. He wasn't eating. He lost weight. He almost fainted in the shower. Diane held up her hand. Okay, let's take a breath. This is exactly what we're trying to avoid. The blame game doesn't help anyone. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm stating facts. You're stating your version of things, Natalie said. Her voice was tight. You came home and decided everything I did was wrong without even asking me what it was like. Do you know how hard those 10 days were for me? Sleeping in that house, trying to figure out what he needed, feeling like I was failing every second because I wasn't you? I left you a schedule. You left me a binder full of instructions like I was an idiot. It was overwhelming. Rachel leaned forward. Caregiving is really overwhelming. I think that's what Nat's trying to say. She stepped up when you needed her, and maybe it didn't go perfectly, but she tried. That should count for something. I stared at Rachel. He didn't take his blood pressure medication for 5 days. That's not perfect. That's dangerous. He's an adult, Natalie said. I can't force him to take pills if he doesn't want to. He has early-stage dementia. He forgets. Then maybe he needs more help than either of us can give him. My uncle nodded. That's actually something we wanted to talk about. Diane mentioned you were looking into some kind of program. I turned to Diane. I told you that in confidence. We're all family here, she said. If you're making decisions about Mike's care, we should know about it. I'm not making decisions, I'm researching options. What kind of options? My uncle asked. A senior day program or a part-time aide. Something so he's not alone all day while I'm at work. Natalie's head snapped up. See? She wants to put him in a home. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. No, it's not. A day program means he goes during the day and comes back at night. An aide means someone checks on him for a few hours. That's it. My uncle frowned. Mike doesn't need strangers coming into his house. He needs someone making sure he takes his medication and eats meals. He has you, Diane said. I can't be there every second. You managed before. Barely. And I can't take any more time off work. I'm out of leave. Rachel looked at Dad. Uncle Mike, how do you feel about all this? Do you want to go to a program? Dad glanced up. His eyes moved from Rachel to me to Natalie and back to his lap. I don't know. Do you feel like you need more help? Rachel asked. He hesitated. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden, I said. Then why are we talking about sending him away? Natalie said. We're not sending him away. You're talking about programs and aides and taking him out of his own house because you can't handle it. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and opened the photos. I'd taken pictures of the medication organizer the day I got home. The compartment's still full. The dates clearly visible. I held it out toward Diane. This is what I came home to. 5 days of missed doses. Diane glanced at the screen and looked away. I'm sure it was an honest mistake. Look at it. I don't need to look at it. I believe you. But I also believe Natalie when she says she did her best. I turned to my uncle and showed him the photo. He squinted at it, then shrugged. I'm not a doctor, I don't know what that means. It means he didn't get his medication. For 5 days. Natalie stood up. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're attacking me in front of everyone. You brought evidence like this is a trial. I'm trying to show them what actually happened. You're trying to make me look terrible so no one questions you putting Dad in a facility. I'm not putting him in a facility. Then what are you doing? I'm trying to keep him safe. She laughed, sharp and bitter. By making me the villain. By telling everyone I almost killed him. By acting like you're the only one who cares. I never said that. You didn't have to. Rachel stood up and put her hand on Natalie's shoulder. It's okay. We know you tried. Diane nodded. Caregiving is one of the hardest things anyone can do. You should be proud of yourself for stepping up at all. I looked around the room. They were all nodding, all looking at Natalie with sympathy. My uncle, Rachel, 2 cousins I barely knew sitting on the far couch, all of them on her side. I turned to Dad. Dad, did you feel cared for while I was gone? He looked up at me. His face was pale. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not causing trouble, I just need to know. She tried her best. Natalie's face brightened. See? He's fine. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Dad, I said, did you eat the meals I left? He didn't answer. Did you take your medication every day? He looked at Natalie, then back at me. I don't remember. That's because you didn't. And you almost fainted because you took your blood pressure pills on an empty stomach. Diane stood up. Okay, I think we need to stop this. Mike looks exhausted. This isn't good for him. None of this is good for him, I said. That's my whole point. Your point is that you're the only one who can take care of him, Natalie said. And the rest of us should just stay out of your way or be prepared to get torn apart for not doing it exactly how you want. That's not true, isn't it? You won't let anyone help. You won't trust anyone else. And now you want to hand him over to strangers because even you can't keep up the perfect caregiver act. My throat tightened. I'm doing everything I can. And it's still not enough. So what does that say? I looked at Dad. He was staring at the floor, his shoulders hunched, his hands gripping the armrests. He looked like he wanted to disappear. I picked up my purse. Come on, Dad, we're leaving. You don't have to go, my uncle said. Yeah, we do. I helped Dad stand. He moved slowly, his legs shaky. I kept my hand on his elbow and guided him toward the door. Behind me, I heard Rachel whisper something to Natalie. I heard Diane sigh. No one tried to stop us. I got Dad into the car and closed the door. I walked around to the driver's side and sat down, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. Dad buckled his seatbelt and looked straight ahead. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, I said. I don't want you two fighting because of me. We're not fighting because of you. He didn't say anything else. I started the car and backed out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, I saw Natalie standing in the window, watching us leave. 3 weeks after the gathering, Dad woke up with his left arm tingling. He tried to stand and his leg buckled. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard him call my name, his voice thin and confused. I found him sitting on the edge of his bed, gripping the mattress with his right hand. His left arm hung limp at his side. I can't feel my hand, he said. I called 911. The operator told me to keep him still and watch for slurred speech or facial drooping. I knelt in front of him and asked him to smile. One side of his mouth barely moved. I asked him to raise both arms. The left one lifted maybe 2 inches. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. The paramedics loaded him onto a stretcher and wheeled him out while I grabbed his insurance card and medication list from the kitchen drawer. I rode in the ambulance holding his good hand while the paramedic checked his vitals and radioed ahead to the hospital. At the emergency room, they rushed him into a CT scan. I sat in the waiting area with my phone in my lap, staring at the automatic doors. A nurse came out 20 minutes later and told me they were admitting him. The doctor would talk to me once they had him settled. I texted Natalie. Dad had a stroke. We're at Mercy General. She didn't respond. 2 hours later, a doctor in blue scrubs found me in the hallway outside Dad's room. His badge said Dr. Patel. He had a tablet tucked under his arm and a tired look on his face. He's stable, he said. The stroke was minor, but we're keeping him for observation. We'll start him on blood thinners and adjust his other medications. Is he going to be okay? The next 48 hours are critical. We'll monitor him closely. He'll need physical therapy for his left side, but there's a good chance he'll regain most of the function. I nodded. My hands were shaking. Dr. Patel looked at his tablet. I need to ask you some questions about his medical history. Has he been taking his medications consistently? Yes, I manage them. How long have you been managing them? 2 years. He scrolled through something on the screen. And there haven't been any gaps? Any periods where he might have missed doses? My stomach dropped. There was a gap about a month ago. I was out of the country for 10 days and someone else was watching him. How many doses did he miss? 5 days worth. His expression didn't change, but his fingers paused on the tablet. 5 consecutive days? Yes. He typed something. Which medications? All of them. Blood pressure, cholesterol, the baby aspirin, everything. He looked up. That's significant. Inconsistent blood pressure medication can increase stroke risk, especially in patients with his history. Did he experience any symptoms during that time? Dizziness? Headaches? Confusion? He got dizzy once he almost fell getting out of the shower. Dr. Patel typed again. And the person who was watching him, were they aware of his medication schedule? I left written instructions. A schedule taped to the fridge. The pills were in a labeled organizer, but they didn't follow it. No? He closed the tablet and tucked it back under his arm. I'm going to note this in his chart. It's important for us to understand what might have contributed to the stroke. I stared at him. You're putting it in his medical record? It's relevant information. We need a complete picture. Behind him, the door to Dad's room opened. Natalie stepped out. She must have come in through the main entrance while I was talking to the doctor. She froze when she saw us. Dr. Patel glanced at her, then back at me. Is this the person who was watching him? Yes. Natalie's face went pale. She looked at me, then at the doctor, then at the floor. Dr. Patel nodded once. I'll check on him again in a few hours. Let the nurses know if you need anything. He walked past Natalie without looking at her. She stood there with her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the tile. I waited until he was gone. When did you get here? 10 minutes ago. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I was looking for you. He had a stroke. I know, I saw the nurses. Is he okay? They don't know yet. She took a step toward me. Can I see him? He's sleeping. I just want to look. I moved aside. She pushed open the door and stepped into the room. I followed her. Dad was lying in the hospital bed with an IV in his right arm and monitors beeping softly beside him. His left hand rested on top of the blanket, the fingers curled slightly inward. His eyes were closed. He looked smaller than he had this morning. Natalie stood at the foot of the bed, gripping the railing. Did they say what caused it? His blood pressure. That's all. That's enough. She didn't move. Did you tell them about me? I told them he missed his medication for 5 days. The doctor asked why. What did you say? The truth. Her grip on the railing tightened. You told him it was my fault. I told him what happened. You blamed me. I answered his question. She turned to face me. Her eyes were red. Do you know what that means? If it's in his chart? If something happens to him? Something already happened to him. I didn't mean for this to happen. I know. Then why are you doing this? I looked at Dad lying in the bed, his chest rising and falling under the thin hospital blanket. Because it matters. Because the doctor needs to know. Because if I don't tell the truth now and something worse happens later, I'll never forgive myself. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I tried. I really did try. I know, but it wasn't enough. No? She stood there for another minute, staring at Dad, then turned and walked out. The door swung shut behind her. I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway. I pulled a chair next to the bed and sat down. I took Dad's good hand and held it between both of mine. His skin felt papery and cold. I sat there listening to the monitor's beep and watching his chest rise and fall, and I thought about the medication organizer sitting on his kitchen counter at home, every compartment filled and labeled for the week ahead. That night, after Dad woke up and the nurses checked his vitals and adjusted his IV, I went home and opened my laptop. I pulled up the medication schedule I'd created 2 years ago. I printed out the logs showing every refill, every doctor's appointment, every adjustment to his prescriptions. I wrote down exactly what had happened during those 10 days, hour by hour, as much as I could remember. I documented the state of the kitchen when I came home, the untouched meals, the full pill organizer, Dad's weight loss, the dizzy spell he'd told me about. I put it all in a folder labeled with the date. The next morning, I called a family mediator. The receptionist asked what kind of situation I was dealing with. I told her my father had just had a stroke and my sister and I needed to have a conversation about his care with someone neutral in the room. She scheduled us for the following Thursday. I texted Natalie the time and address. She responded 3 hours later. Fine. I sat in the hospital cafeteria with my coffee going cold, staring at that one word on my phone screen, and I wondered if anything I said in that room would make a difference, or if we'd already broken something that couldn't be fixed. The mediator's office was in a low brick building near the courthouse, second floor, with a waiting room that smelled like coffee and cleaning solution. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat in one of the chairs by the window, watching cars pull into the parking lot below. Natalie's car appeared at 2 minutes past the hour. She parked in the far corner and sat inside for a full minute before getting out. She walked across the lot slowly, her purse clutched against her side, and disappeared through the entrance below. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. The door opened and she stepped into the waiting room. She glanced at me, then looked away and sat 3 chairs down. Neither of us spoke. At exactly 10 o'clock, the receptionist opened the inner door and led us down a short hallway to a conference room. The mediator was already seated at the table, a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She stood and shook both our hands. I'm Patricia Brennan. Thank you both for coming. Please sit. I took the chair on the right side of the table. Natalie sat on the left. Patricia settled back into her seat at the head and folded her hands on top of a yellow legal pad. Before we begin, I want to make sure we're all on the same page about why we're here. This is a space for honest conversation about your father's care. My role is to facilitate that conversation, not to take sides. Does that sound fair? I nodded. Natalie stared at the table and said nothing. Patricia looked at me. You requested this meeting. Would you like to start by explaining what's been happening? I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I opened it and slid the first page across the table toward Patricia. This is my father's medication schedule. I've been managing it for 2 years. Every dose is logged here. Patricia put on her glasses and looked at the page. When I went overseas for 10 days last month, I asked my sister to stay with him. I left written instructions, pre-made meals with dates labeled on every container, and a pill organizer that was already filled. When I came home, 5 days of medication were still in the organizer. The meals were untouched. My father had lost weight and told me he'd felt dizzy getting out of the shower but didn't want to bother anyone. I slid another page across the table. 3 weeks later, he had a stroke. This is a note from his doctor stating that inconsistent blood pressure medication increases stroke risk. The doctor asked if there had been any gaps in his care. I told him about the 10 days. Patricia read the note, then looked at Natalie. Is this accurate? Natalie's face flushed. He never asked me for his medication. I didn't know he was supposed to take it at specific times. I pulled out the laminated schedule I'd taped to the fridge and set it on the table. This was posted in the kitchen. Morning doses at 8, evening doses at 6. His name is at the top. The medications are listed. The times are circled. Patricia picked it up and studied it. This seems very clear. It was overwhelming, Natalie said. Her voice cracked. There were so many instructions. The binder, the schedule, the meal plans. I didn't know where to start. The pill box was already filled, I said. All you had to do was hand it to him twice a day. He's an adult. I thought if he needed it, he'd ask for it. Patricia set the schedule down. Your father has early-stage dementia, is that correct? Yes, I said. So he may not remember to ask for things even when he needs them. Natalie looked at her hands. I didn't think it would matter if I missed a few things. The room went completely silent. Patricia wrote something on her legal pad. I stared at Natalie, waiting for her to take it back, to say she misspoke, to claim she'd tried harder than that. She didn't. You didn't think it would matter, I repeated. I thought he'd be fine for 10 days. I didn't think skipping some pills would cause a stroke. He takes blood pressure medication. He has a history of hypertension. The doctor has told him a dozen times that he has to take it consistently. I didn't know that. It's in the binder, page 3. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. I didn't read the whole binder. I looked at it and it felt like too much, and I just tried to do my best without following every single rule you wrote down. Patricia leaned forward slightly. Natalie, when you agreed to stay with your father, did you understand that he needed help with medications and meals? I thought I was just keeping him company. Did your sister tell you otherwise? Natalie wiped her eyes. She said to make sure he took his pills and ate the meals she left, but she didn't tell me it was life or death. I told you he has dementia, I said. I told you he forgets things. I gave you everything you needed to keep him safe. You gave me a huge binder and a million schedules and expected me to be a nurse. I'm not a nurse. I don't know how to take care of old people. You didn't have to be a nurse. You had to follow a schedule. Patricia held up her hand. Let's take a step back. Natalie, it sounds like you felt unprepared for the level of care your father needed. Is that fair to say? Natalie nodded, her face crumpling. I didn't think it would be this hard. I thought I could handle it. I wanted to help. But every day I woke up and felt like I was failing, and I didn't know how to fix it, so I just stopped trying. You stopped trying, I said. I know. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. Patricia wrote something else on her pad. It sounds like there was a significant mismatch between what was needed and what you were able to provide. That's important to acknowledge. I already acknowledged it, Natalie said. I've been apologizing for weeks, but she won't let it go. She keeps bringing it up like I tried to hurt him on purpose. You didn't try, I said, but you also didn't care enough to follow through. That's not true. You said you stopped trying because I felt like I couldn't do anything right, because you made it impossible. Patricia looked at me. Do you believe your sister intended to neglect your father? No. I think she agreed to something she wasn't willing to do, and instead of asking for help, she did nothing and hoped it wouldn't matter. Natalie's hands curled into fists on the table. I was there every night. I checked on him. I tried to make him comfortable. Just because I didn't follow your exact schedule doesn't mean I did nothing. He didn't eat. He didn't take his medication. He got so weak he almost fell. That's not comfort. That's neglect. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Patricia set down her pen. I think we've established that your father's care requires consistency and attention to detail. Natalie, based on what you've told me, do you feel equipped to provide that level of care on your own? Natalie stared at the table. Her shoulders shook. No, that's an important thing to recognize. It's not a failure, it's self-awareness. It feels like a failure. It's not, but it does mean that going forward, your father's primary care needs to be handled by someone who can manage the medical complexity. Do you agree with that? Natalie didn't answer. Patricia looked at me. And you've been managing his care for 2 years? Yes. Are you able to continue doing that? I'm going to have to. I've already started looking into part-time help so he's not alone during the day. I've rearranged my work schedule. I'm handling all his appointments and medications myself from now on. Natalie's head snapped up. You're cutting me out. I'm making sure he's safe. You're punishing me. I'm doing what I should have done from the beginning. I never should have left him in your care. Her face twisted. So that's it? You've decided I'm worthless and you're never going to trust me again? I've decided I'm not going to put his life in your hands when you've already admitted you stopped trying. She stood up so fast her chair scraped across the floor. You know what? Fine. You want to do it all yourself? Go ahead. You've always thought you were the only one who could do anything right anyway. You don't need me. You've never needed me. Natalie, please sit down, Patricia said. No, I'm done. I came here to try to fix things, and all she wants to do is make me feel terrible. She got what she wanted. She can take care of Dad by herself and feel like a hero, and I'll just stay out of her way like I always do. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Natalie, I said. She stopped with her hand on the doorknob. What? If you want to visit him, you can. I'm not keeping you away, but I'm not leaving you alone with him again. She turned around. Her face was red and her eyes were streaming. You think so little of me. I think you're not capable of doing this. That's not the same thing. Yes, it is. She yanked the door open and walked out. Her footsteps echoed down the hallway, fast and uneven. The outer door slammed. Patricia took off her glasses and set them on the table. That's a hard thing to say to a sibling. It's the truth. Truth can still be hard. I stared at the empty doorway. My chest felt tight. She wanted me to lie, to pretend it didn't matter, to let her keep pretending she tried. She's grieving the loss of your good opinion. She lost it when she let our father go 5 days without his medication and didn't think it mattered. Patricia nodded slowly. You've made your position clear. The question now is what happens next. I closed the folder and put it back in my bag. I hire someone I can trust. I keep doing what I've been doing, and I stop expecting her to be someone she's not. I hired the aide the following Monday. Her name was Gloria, and she'd worked in elder care for 15 years. She came to the house every weekday from 9 to 2, made sure Dad took his morning medication, heated his lunch, and stayed with him while I was at work. I paid her out of my savings because my paycheck couldn't stretch far enough to cover it. I rearranged my schedule so I could work from home 2 days a week and leave early the other 3. My manager wasn't happy about it, but she didn't fight me. I started setting my alarm for 6 instead of 7 so I could get Dad's breakfast made and his morning pills sorted before Gloria arrived. Natalie didn't call. She didn't text. 2 weeks after the mediation, she posted on social media about the weight of unappreciated labor and how some people only see your mistakes, never your effort. 3 people commented with heart emojis. Diane shared it. I kept Dad's medication log updated every day. I took him to his follow-up appointments and asked the doctors every question I'd written down the night before. His left hand started working again, slowly, and the physical therapist said he was making good progress. At night, after Gloria left and Dad was settled in his recliner with the television on, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and paid bills I could barely afford, and I thought about my sister in her apartment across town, posting about toxic families while our father relearned how to grip a fork. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt tired, stretched too thin, and angry at a situation I couldn't fix. But when I checked Dad's pill organizer and saw every compartment empty at the end of the week, when I watched him eat the meals I'd prepared and heard him laugh at something on the television, I knew I'd made the right choice. I knew he was safe, and I knew I'd finally stopped pretending my sister was someone she'd never been willing to become.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.